All right, hello everybody. I'm going to get started. It's 12:30. My name is Andrew Hazlett. I'm a member of the San Jose Cactus and Succulent Society. Um, uh, I'm here in San Jose. It's a pretty rainy day, so I'm tucked into this corner here on my patio, the only dry place in the yard. Um, so for my personal life, I'm a research and development engineer out here in Silicon Valley. I know this stream has been shared far and wide now to many places other than San Jose. I'm a backyard grower. I don't have a greenhouse. The climate's pretty warm here in San Jose, so most plants do okay. Not all. You have to keep some dry through the winter just to handle the cold. Um, so the reason that I got into grafting is that my garden is not very old. It's less than 2 years old, and I heard that there was this way that I could speed up growing plants quite a bit. So I didn't have to wait a decade. I could wait a year or two to get a big plant. So I did research. I read papers. Went on some online groups to learn about grafting. Read as much as I could. Asked questions, and then with that information, I went out and I practiced. Um, that's the main thing you're going to have to do to learn grafting is a lot of practicing, a lot of failing at first. Eventually, though, they'll start taking, and when they start taking, it's really great because you'll see this plant that grows really fast. All of a sudden, it's really amazing when you see it happen, and then once you get it down, you can repeat it over and over with a lot of different kinds of plants, and you can have a really awesome garden in not a lot of time. If you have a really rare plant and you're worried about killing it, you can propagate it onto 15 different rootstocks. You can have redundancy in your garden with that rare plant. You can share it, trade it for whatever you want. It's nice. I'm happy to learn the skill, and I want to thank everybody that's helped me in the past. My friends that have shown me things, the grafting group on Facebook, the Cacti Guy forum, other people that have written papers and put the information out there. This is how people get started with grafting. And I thank you very much for the help in the past, and I'm here to try to show some things to help other people get started or answer other people's questions. I'm sure some of the people watching will be more experienced grafting than I am, and that's okay. And let me know anything in the sidebar. I can see the comments here in real time as they come in. And let's see what else. It's really not that difficult to graft, so this is something that anybody can do with just a few supplies. I'll go into the supplies you need and the deal with how to get them to take, and then we can talk about. We can kind of open it up for more discussion to talk about anything anyone's interested in at the same time. Um, so I need to ask, or I should ask everybody. This was originally going to be the San Jose group, and then the San Francisco group joined, and then some other groups joined, and we're really happy to have everybody. We were interested in knowing where everybody is coming from today. So let us know in the sidebar. Let us know in the sidebar where you're from, San Jose, San Francisco, or even further, and we're interested in hearing. So, all right. Yeah, let me get started. I'll explain what grafting is. Here's a graft as an example. Um, Grafting is a surgical operation where you're attaching one plant to another plant in the hopes of growing the scion, which is the one you are attaching to a rootstock, the one that's rooted in the ground. So the reasons you might do this is to propagate a plant much faster. Some plants they just don't do very well on their own roots. This one is variegated, so it really won't produce much of its own sugar or energy. So having a root Hey, all right. Ken here again. Great news. Okay. So I'm not sure exactly where it cut out, but I think that it was around saying that you cannot graft any plant to any other plant. They have to be related. Um, so so you can graft any cactus to any other kind of cactus. You can graft any euphorbia to any kind of euphorbia. Fruit trees, stone fruit can be grafted to another kind of stone fruit tree, as far as I know. Um, you can graft a tomato plant to a potato plant. Um, yeah, so, all right. Okay, so I'll go through the tools of grafting, and then I'll start chopping up some plants. Let me just pull up the video here, make sure everything's good. Okay, so what you need to graft is you need two knives. One is going to be your sharp knife, and one is going to be your dull knife. The dull knife you're going to do most of the cutting up work with, all the preparation. You're going to be using this knife much more than the sharp knife. The sharp knife will just be for the final cut. You need something to sanitize your knives with, because this is a surgical operation, so any dirt will cause rot or mold to grow in there. You need something to attach the scion to the rootstock with. I use this grafting tape. It's $2 or $3 on Amazon. It's about the same as 4 layers of saran wrap in strength. So it's just like saran wrap, but a little bit stronger. And I use a knife sharpener to make sure my blades are razor sharp. Okay, and now what else? Let me grab some examples of plants, and I can just um, I'll show what we're gonna do. I just grabbed this one from the yard. This is the Eve's needle. I heard that the Eve's needle, the Tepfro cactus geo, it works really well on the Eve's needle. Someone just said that in the comments, so I'm gonna take a piece of this and I'll put it onto this Eve's needle here. So before I get started, I'm gonna explain the vascular rings on plants, just so you know. I'll show the technique, and for the technique to work, the vascular rings have to overlap. So if you take any cactus cut and you look inside of it, you'll see that I marked it with a Sharpie where the vascular ring is, in case the camera is not so easy to see the ring on its own. You're going to have to overlap that ring with the scion and the stalk. So the bottom half and the top half, you'll have to put them together in a way that overlaps that ring. If the rings miss, they're too far off, like over here or something, I mean, that's exaggerating, then the plant won't take. If one ring is much different size than the other ring, and you put it right in the middle, and the rings are they don't cross at all. They're just, one is inside the other, then it won't take. The other thing you can do with grafting is you can do slab grafts. So with a slab graft, you cut it lengthwise instead, like this, and then you have a ring that's instead of having a ring that's round, you're getting the lengthwise part of the ring. So you have two lines to work with. So with this kind of graft, a slab graft, you will line the two rings, the cross section of the rings up with the ring on your stalk, like this, with just a small piece. You wouldn't use a piece so big. I have some examples of those here. So these are the vascular rings. So if this is the outside of the cactus, and you have a tip graft on a round stalk, you want them to overlap. If you had one vascular ring inside the other, it wouldn't work. If you had one vascular ring that totally missed the inside one because it slipped, it won't work either. If you're doing slab grafting, you need to have the cross section of the ring overlap with the center ring for the stalk. If the cross section is really big, and it goes on both sides, of the vascular ring, it won't take. If you miss and it goes on the outside, it won't take either. So okay, so I will go through the process now. Can you use cling film instead of grafting tape? I wonder. Saran wrap on its own won't work. It's just too. It doesn't put any pressure. It really has very little pressure. I did find. I picked up some of this press and seal the other day, and this stuff is just as strong as the grafting tape. So I think strips of this would work pretty well. Maybe I'll even try some out. This stuff's really strong, so it's like almost as strong as the grafting tape, maybe even stronger. This is for just like a couple bucks at the store. Okay, so to get started, yeah, for opuntias, the ring is it's not the same as with this San Pedro Pacanoy. The ring on opuntias, it goes on the very outside of the near the skin. So the ring is it's much bigger, and it's not a little ring in the middle. It follows the outside, but I'll try to show it when I chop these plants up. So to get the process started, I will first sharpen the knives. So I'll just do this up in the air. This knife sharpener is really easy. It's at razor sharp, but it does take a lot of metal off the knife. Yeah, if you use saran wrap, it's like about 4 layers overlapped of saran wrap is the same amount of pressure as, is the same thickness as this grafting tape. This grafting tape is, I get it on Amazon. It's for fruit tree grafting. Okay, we're pretty sharp. Clean everything off. So I'm just going to wipe down the oils and the metal that just came off when I sharpened it. Alright, this Eve's needle is pretty nasty. I'm going to throw some gloves on. I don't know if anyone's ever seen these gloves before. They're, let me show them to everybody. So these are military surplus razor wire gloves. I'm only going to wear one, but I'll show you. These things have metal wound into them. Joe in San Jose showed me these. You can just grab most any cactus. You could grab a big barrel cactus. You don't even have to think about it. So, like, I can just, there's nothing that goes through these gloves at all. They have some kind of steel. They have some kind of steel wire that's interwebbed through them. They work really great. They cost 15 bucks used, military surplus on Amazon. I don't think that people use them for much other stuff. I'm just going to use one of them for now. This is a particularly nasty plant. So with the dull knife, first I'm going to decide on where I'm going to chop the stalk. So these have kind of barbs on them, so these Eve's needles seem to stick to my gloves. So you can see the ring in the opuntia type of cactus. It's really along the outside near the skin. It's different than other kinds of cactus that I've seen. I guess the astros are kind of similar, where the ring is bigger, but it doesn't really follow right next to the skin. So I have to try to get this off my gloves somehow. I'm going to do the other one while I'm at it. Yeah, when you cut, you need a really nice smooth cut all the way across. You don't want to do any sawing motion. You don't want to use a serrated knife. You need a nice smooth cut all the way across. This won't be the final cut. I'm going to use the other knife for that. I'm just going to prepare the stock first and then get to that. These Eve's needles are pretty nasty. So I'm going to do some beveling. Probably not too much, just going to get the spines out of the way on this one because the ring is on the very outside. So if I beveled, the beveling is when you cut it so that it is like a cone shape, and then you cut the top off. And then what happens is if you don't do beveling, then the skin on the outside is pretty thick. It raises up and it pushes the scion off. If you do beveling, then that skin stays lower. It doesn't push the scion off. If it gets any rain in it later on, the water collects inside this concave top of the cactus. I can't do much beveling on this one because the ring is right along the outside. I would just cut the whole ring off if I beveled too much, but I am going to bevel to get the spines off just so the ones that are near the edge are not in my way. Okay. All right, now I'm going to use the sharp knife to do a final cut. I'm just going to cut across. I'm going to cut across and leave that little 1 millimeter flap of cactus on the top, and that'll just keep it moist so it doesn't dry up while I'm preparing the scion, which will be this Tepfro Geo. Okay, I did a little more than a millimeter, but I think it's okay. Alright, that's one. Sorry, it's hard to show this. Oops, I gotta do it away from me so I can get it accurate. Okay. Alright, so there's the second one. I'm gonna clean the knife off again. I'm going to get the grafting tape ready. So I'm going to cut a ball off this one. I'll cut this little ball here. I'm going to cut this ball in half, and then I'm going to immediately take these little pieces, little flaps that I cut with a sharp knife, take them off and put it on top. And then I need something to give pressure around it. Maybe I'll try to use this press and seal wrap just because this Eve's needle is so nasty. I'm gonna stab myself if I use grafting tape. So I got one sheet ready, 2 sheets. Height of those spines. Yeah, this Eve's needle is a little harder to work with, but that's okay. So with the dull knife, I'm going to cut this pup off here. Okay. Now I'm going to take the sharp knife and I'm going to cut this little pup in half. One will be going, one half of it will be going upright. The other half I'm going to put on upside down. Okay. Yeah, check out this ring. Check out this ring. It's see, it's right on the outside of the plant. It's pretty interesting. It's a lot different than the Trichocereus. So let's put half here. Make sure they overlap. Press it down. Make sure they overlap. Press it down. And I'm going to take my cling wrap here. Just going to double it up. I'm just going to put it on, give it some pressure. Hopefully it takes. Better use my gloves again. I haven't grafted on Eve's needle before. It's a little bit nastier of a plant than most others. So I just stick it. I just get as much pressure as this cling wrap will give me, and I just stick it to the spines, and then do one more here. So I'm probably putting on about, I want to align it. Okay. Okay. Alright, I hope that takes. There's definitely some pressure on it with this cling wrap. I haven't used this cling wrap before, and I haven't used Eve's needle before, so sometimes when I try new stuff I mess it up. Usually when I'm doing it a way that I know, then it works out. Let me do something I know well now. I'm going to introduce a new I'm going to introduce a new kind of plant here. I usually put on, somebody asked how much pressure I use. I usually use so much pressure that I feel like I'm going to crush the thing. This is, it's like I just use this tape and I just go over and over and over and I just load it up with pressure until it's probably 2 or 3 pounds of pressure at the end. I make sure that the scion that I'm using is plumped up. I don't want to use a dehydrated scion, or else sometimes I crush it when I load it up with pressure. But I find that having even pressure all the way across really helps them take, and then they'll take 95% of the time for me. I'm not sure about that Eve's needle. That's new for me. I didn't get as much pressure on that as I usually do, but I will show you now what I would do on a normal graft on an easier stock. So, all right, let's start again. So I'd like to introduce a new kind of graft that I want to try out here. There's a fruit tree grafter that makes fruit trees that are called the tree of 40 fruit. So there's 40 different fruits on one rootstock of a tree, and each branch, has a different type of fruit on it, pears or apples or any other, maybe multiple kinds of apples and pears, and I don't know what else, plums and other things you can graft to the same stock. I'd like to make something like this for the cactus world, and we should of course have one. So I'm going to introduce the San Pedro stump of 40 cacti. Right now it only has one graft on it, so it's going to take me a while to get 40 different grafts on this one stump. I'm going to have to, I can do some now, but then I'm going to have to wait until the stump pops out more, or I can graft on top of other stems that have grown out like this one. Right now it has a pachanoi, Trichoceres pachanoi, and a Trichoceres burgessii on it. I'm going to just try to graft some interesting stuff to this as I go. I'll just put one on, I'll just cut up some stuff and put it on here, and then eventually I'll have 40 different cacti growing on one San Pedro stump. You might be able to think of a better name than the San Pedro stump of 40 cacti, and just put it in the comments if you think of it. Alright, so just clean my knife again. Let's see. So now I'm going to move the camera up a little so you can see everything. Go closer. So while we're doing the tepfro, I'll just do another pop of the tepfro on here. We can put it, why don't we put it on this little pup right here. So first thing, I'm going to do the prep work. So First, cut the tip. Do the beveling so it doesn't push itself up. Okay, looks good to me. Now I'm gonna get the pup ready. So I'm just gonna use a really small pup. It'll grow out. That's a good one right there. The small pups work really well because, as you saw, that ring is around the outside. So if you have a big pup like this one, the ring's all the way around the outside. And then this ring is so small on the San Pedro that it would be hard for me to line them up. But if I use a really small pup like this one, then it makes it easy for me to line the small pup up on the outside of this with the San Pedro. Okay, do it right up here. So I don't think I need the gloves anymore because this San Pedro is a lot easier to work with. Okay, that's with the dull knife still. So it's not a very clean cut. I'm going to cut it again with a sharp knife with a little more control on the mat. Is that a failed graft on the center of the stump, or is it something else? There is a failed graft right here. This this was a failed graft too. I grafted on this one a year ago before I knew what I was doing as much, so I definitely messed some up trying to practice new things. I have several that I just if you do fail, you can usually just cut them again, and your stock is going to be about the same size, or this one's even has a few more pups than it did before. Sometimes you can save the scion too if you don't wait too long. Okay, so I'm going to do my final cut right here of the rootstock, and then I'm going to do the final cut of the pup. Yeah, it's hard to see both the top and the bottom here. Okay, so the ring is still pretty big there, but I'm going to try to line it up the best I can. I've got a big flat surface to set it on here, so take this off, put this guy on, and I am going to put it off center so that that really big ring can line up with the small ring on the San Pedro. So I'm just going to use this tape. I just wrap it all the way around. This tape it's not sticky at all. It sticks to the plant because it's going over the spines. So the spines are what's holding the tape in place every time I pass. So the first pass is just me getting it in the place that I want it to be. Go at a few different angles so that it holds it in every direction. And it can still move around at this point. I get it in place, 2 passes, and then I crank down the pressure after it's not moving. So now I'm starting to put the pressure down. I use more tape than most people do, but it seems to work well. Okay. All right. So the scion is offset. It has that big ring in the middle. It's offset from the San Pedro enough that I believe that the two should be crossing. The pressure has been cranked down with this tape. It's probably about a pound. I'm just gonna put the tape around some spines to hold it in place. I'll leave the tape roll right here because I'm gonna use it again. Okay, that's so now my stump. It's right now. This is the stump of San Pedro stump of 3 cacti. I've got 1, 2, and the original stump. Thinner numbers are better. I have so I'm gonna do another one now. I just cut up a crested astro star cactus. It's a crested variegated astro star. So I'm going to put one of these pups on a different stem because I think these are pretty interesting. So I've got 17 different pups for my one plant here. I'm just going to find one that looks like it would be a good size for just putting it on the tip of one of these. This one looks good. It's yellow. It's got a pretty big bottom. Okay, so all right. Same process. I'm just going to do the, there's a way you can control the rings. So I know that this one's pretty small, this pup, and this pup's going to have a ring that's in the middle. I want to make sure that the San Pedro ring is not way larger than the ring that I'm going to get on this. And the way that I can control the ring is that I can just cut the tip of this San Pedro very close to the top. The ring gets smaller as it goes up. So if you look at the cross section where I marked it in black, you can see how near the tip the ring gets quite a bit smaller. That'll help me match this the small ring of this variegated star cactus to the San Pedro that's going to have a bigger ring. It kind of gives me some more control so I can get it placed in the right spot. Okay, so first, do my beveling. With the doll knife again. I just want to see an up close of the. Let's see. Sorry, I'm not aiming very well. There it is. So that's what the top looks like. I use 5 days for the tape, but you can use more, and it probably would be successful to use more. Other than it makes a lot of humidity around the scions, so this red rust will start growing. I put a little more pressure up front and a little more evenness to the pressure than rubber bands would have, and the trade-off for that is that I take the tape off after 5 days instead of 2 weeks. If you use rubber bands or if you use yarn. Something else that's more breathable, then you take the tape off after 2 weeks. I just have to take it off sooner because this red rust will start growing under there if I leave it on for 2 weeks. So, okay, I'm gonna cut my little flap off here. Okay, that's ready to go. Then I take my scion. I'm gonna, you can see the back of it. I'm gonna cut it. Put it on top. So I guess you guys can see back here. It's a little far away, but okay. The ring is really tiny in there. It's right in the middle. It's hard. It might be hard to see with the focus of the camera. But, let's hope it takes. The ring's pretty small in both of these. So I have to put it a little offset again. So the tape is sticking to the spines of the plant. Go all the way around just to reset it. Every time I'm going to crank down the pressure a little more and more. You can use strips of leg highs, or I think they're called knee highs. They're like pantyhose to do this. There's endless ways to do this grafting, and the only thing that matters is that it works or doesn't work. So the tape isn't some critical component. It's just what I use that works for me, and a lot of people have a lot of different things that work for them. Okay, so that has some pressure on it now. I'm just going to attach it to some spines. And that's good for now. So now this San Pedro stump is the stump of 4 cacti. I gotta do 10 times more and I'll have 40. Alright, so let me, beveling stock, if you, so with the beveling, if you have a really big stalk and a very small scion, and you know that the skin is really far away from the edges of the scion, then the beveling, you can skip the beveling in that case. I was just doing some Puna grafts recently, and I skipped the beveling just because it's easier to it takes less time to not bevel, and I didn't think it would really matter because the Puna was only this big and the edges of the skin were this big. I'll get back to this when I cut up some more plants in a little while. So we'll put this one over here. So is there any let's see, I'm going to read some questions if anybody has any. Lightly beveling 1 millimeter. Yeah. Okay, there's a 10-second delay on the video, so it'll take me a while to see your questions and answer them here. But let me grab another plant and I'll come back, and if anyone has any questions, then I'll answer it. I have something interesting over here to show you. Let me move my table. So last summer I messed up. Let's see. What happened with this one is I did it last summer, but I missed the ring. So I accidentally did this case right here. So I missed. So the one next to this is the same graft as this one. It grew 12 inches. This one just stayed the same size as the original graft. Yeah, you can leave the rubber bands on a long time. I'm just reading the questions here. So this scion, it plumped up, but it didn't grow. The one next to it, it grew 12 inches. I need to fix this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it off again, and I'm going to reattach it, and I should be able to align the rings this time and then get it to grow. So I put the tape on. After this one, I'll show you guys some grafts that I have here that are done already. So let's see, the best way to do this, I think, is I'm going to just cut this here off. And this is a San Pedro that just tends to go monstrous easily, and it's an interesting one that I'm trying to propagate. So you can see the ring there. And then I'm going to try to do this quick with a sharp knife so I can, okay. So I see the ring in here. Let me see if I can put the camera on it. The bigger the stalk, the faster it's going to grow. So this ring's really big. I'm not sure why I missed the two, but if I miss, then they seem to just stay the same size forever. So I'm just going to attach this like on the offset there so that the ring will overlap twice. So this is one of those times when you have a chance to fix things. So I'm just I have it in place now. I'm loading up the pressure. Different directions. Make sure the rings stay overlapped. Alright, looks good to me. So hopefully I redid it and it works now. Most of the time they'll if they don't, sometimes if the edges dry out a little too much or the scion's a little dehydrated, they'll just fall off. If you don't cross the rings, they'll just kind of stay there and they'll be alive, but they won't grow. And then those take a while to figure out. So Can you show the one that grew 12 inches? That one's around the side of the house, but I can show it in a. Let me show some that are right here, and then we can. I have one here that grew quite a bit. Okay, so this guy here I'd like to show. This is a Puntia prickly pear pad, and on top of it is I might have to move back the camera a little. So this is. Here's two Puntia pads. These were done 6 months apart. This pad is quite a bit bigger here. Can you see the whole thing? Let me try to find a better angle. Yeah, so these two grafts were done 6 months apart, and this was done the beginning of last summer, and this was done maybe last end of September last year. This pad's a little bigger than the other one. They're in identical pots. And Opuntia, I think they're the fastest growing rootstock if you get them, if you can get the growth right and really redirect the growth from the Opuntia to something else. It will grow very fast compared to any other cactus I have. Sometimes they stall out and they don't do anything for a while. This one you can see is trying to pup out here. With any grafts, if you want the scion to grow, then you should take the pups off as soon as you can. So I'll just take these off, throw them away. There's two of them here. These little Opuntia pups, if you ignore them, they'll grow. Sometimes they'll grow very big, and just in 1 week you'll come back and you'll find it 10 inches tall next to it. So, yeah, this is just a San Pedro. I was using. What I was doing is I was taking the tips of the rootstock San Pedro I was using, and just putting them on Opuntia just to propagate more rootstock and practice my Opuntia grafting. Yeah, here's an interesting one. This is a Trichocereus scop. I'll let Byron give you the whole name on it, but it's albino, so it has no chlorophyll at all. It can't produce any energy, so it's parasitic. But it's on this really big San Pedro, and I did it last year. It's definitely maybe tripled in size, and I expect that it'll probably be, probably will get to 12 inches or something this summer, as long as I keep it fertilized and everything. This is you can see how it looks. This scop is extinct in the wild. It's an extinct species in Peru. I think that there was goats that ate the whole thing because it hardly has any spines, so it's really easy to, it doesn't have a lot of defenses. The chimeras, that's when there's two different colors. Yeah, so this one is, I guess this green area will be green, and when it comes out of a yellow aerial, it'll be yellow, so it'll be variegated. So you can select. I have a hormone called DAP, and this is a pupping hormone. So you put it on the aerial that you want to pup, and then it'll make one of these pups out. So you can kind of choose which part of the plant you want to propagate and which not. And if there's a mutation like this variegation, then you can select for this this variegated instead of getting the a normal green pup. So let me do a slab graft demonstration to show you how to do these slab grafts. It means you can, with the slab grafting, it means you can propagate a lot of plants really fast because you get tons of new growing tips. And these growing tips can just be regrafted, and then it'll just pup out of another aerial to get a new pup to replace it. So they kind of grow at a continuous clip. I think cactus in upstate New York can do okay. I see George's question, but you have to put them in a really sunny window and make sure that there's make sure it doesn't get too cold, or that it's not on a radiator or anywhere. They don't do as well as in California, where it's pretty warm all year round here. So here's one plant that I'd like to propagate. So let me do another demonstration on this to show how it'll work. So now when I size up a plant, I have to plan on what I'm going to do. So this is Byron can give you the name. It's a spiral type mutation in a cactus. And so the best place or the best cut is the top, because that one has a growth tip already, so it doesn't have to convert an aerial, which is one of these places where the spines come out, into a growth tip. So the top section is something I'm going to put on a big stalk, so that it will be the fastest growing. It'll be the fastest starter. Then beyond that, I'll just use slab grafts, and I can do as many as I want. With this one, it's a little bit different because of the shape is so funny for a cactus. This one you can also cut sections, like cylindrical sections, and graft them. So graft them like this way. So this would be the scion that goes on top. All right, let me pick out some stock. I've got all this root stock right here, so I'll just grab some. Okay, so all right, it's hard to see the top and the cutting board at the same time. But so I'm going to prep these two rootstocks. So here's my tip. You can see the vascular ring, the most important thing to get overlapped. You do the bevel. I bought this one at the San Jose Cactus and Succulent Society winter show or winter event. So, I probably will cut it up into a dozen or 15 pieces, and then I'll leave most of it intact to just grow out. All right, so now I'm going to do the final cut, and then just leave this flap here. Final cut. Leave this flap here. Okay, I'll bring the camera down so you can see me chop off the top of this one. I'm going to have to clean off my cutting mat. It's getting a little muddy with bringing the plants up here in the rain. Alright, so first things first, take the sharp knife. I'm going to cut the top of this one off, right here, just one. This one just is kind of stacking balls on top of each other all the way up from the bottom. So I'll cut it off so that I have one ring of spines in the tip. I'm going to cut it. I'll show you how it looks after I get done, but I don't want to, it's hard for me to cut towards myself. You know what I'm going to do? Sideways. Okay, first cut. So now, here's my style. Let me show it to everybody. There's the little ring in the middle. Okay, just put it right on top. Decide. I'm going to put it on the smaller pup here. Has a smaller ring. It matches this ring much closer. So throw that away. Put it there. Get it in place. I'm going to tape it on. So I'm loading up the pressure, a couple pounds of pressure. All right, I'm gonna call that. It's good. Okay, there we go. That spiny thing. Okay, now I want to do show a slab graft. Slab graft means I can cut a cross section. And with a slab, because I'm doing a cross section, the ring is quite a bit. It's the cross section ring can be much longer. So I'm going to do this one now. Where if I have a really small vascular ring and I'm doing a cross section, then I get the whole length of that small ring to work with. So it makes it easier to line things up. Okay, this is how I did it before. Okay, so now that was with my dull knife. So now this is a cylindrical cutting of the plant. I'm going to cut this in half lengthwise and put it on two different plants, two different rootstocks. So I'm going to be done with this one for today. I could do quite a few grafts with that, like 2 dozen easily, and then still have a rooted piece that will pop out and grow. Okay, I'm gonna sanitize again because I have a lot of dirt from the pots that came up here. Okay. So I'm going to prepare the two rootstocks I'm going to use right now, so that I can cut this in half and then immediately put it on the two sides. So for this one I just did, I still have one tip I haven't used yet. And then let's get the cactus. San Pedro stump of 40 cacti here, and we can put a piece on this one too. So let's see. Try to do some careful cutting of this. Usually I don't do them all at once, so they all have room to. So I wouldn't do so many at once normally, because the tape's getting in the way from the last one. I just wait till the tape came off and then I do another one. But we have to see how many we can get on this stump today. Now with a sharp knife. I'm just going to clean this sharp knife again. You can put the scion upside down. You can put half on the bottom and half on the top. Alright, so I've got one here and one up here you can't see. But first I'm going to cut this in half. I'm going to just cut it in half lengthwise. Right in the middle. Okay, there we go. I'm going to show you guys the rings. So you see that there's two cross sections. You can see the cross section of the ring. That's what I'm going to line up with the circles on top. So this goes off. Okay, I'll show you. Let me put the camera up. I took this little flap off and I put this one here. It's like a little mohawk. And then got the other half here. I'll put it on this one here. And just tape them on. So now this is the cacti of the San Pedro stump of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cacti. I think we can get to 40 pretty quick. Just loading up the pressure now, getting it to stay. I'm just going to attach it somewhere, break the tape. Okay, this one's good. See all those plants? Alright, this one here. I see people are talking about cactus-grafting and seedling grafting, so I have some of those here to try out. I'm going to readjust this to make sure that the rings are overlapped. Now I'm going to crank down the pressure. I used to cut off the pup so there would only be one pup on a rootstock. But now I realize that you'll never have enough rootstock. You'll always have way more scions, and so I just use every pup that comes along, unless it's a new pup that I can break off right away. If I'm grafting, I'll use a piece on every pup, because the grafting stock is kind of the limiting factor. Alright, there it is. Good to go. So 5 days from now, I take off the tape. Let me take off the tape on one that I did 5 days ago to show how I do that. And then I will talk about the seedlings. Okay, so here is this is Astro Miro. If Byron can write the exact name down. This is on a Sirius peruvianus, monstrose rootstock. And to take the tape off, I will just go around very gently, and I'm just going to cut along the ribs all the way around very evenly, because if I try to take it off from one side, there'll still be a lot of pressure from the tape pulling, it'll pull the scion off. The scion is on pretty well right now, but just not on. If it has a lot of force on it, it's gonna still get pulled off. So I just very gently and evenly pull the tape off. I used a lot of tape on this one, but sometimes I go overboard, I guess. So yeah, just so there's not really any pressure on the tape anymore, and then I can just kind of gently take it off. Okay, there we go. So this is a variegated astro. You can see it's right there. So this should grow up pretty nice. One thing to say about rootstock is see this really woody. I'll put the camera over here. This really woody center. You can't really graft on that because that wood, it pushes up and it pushes the scion off. These big old midsections though work really well because they just pup out new growth, and when they pup out new growth, you can just graft to the new growth. And, you can see this is on there. It's on there pretty good. I can poke it and it doesn't fall off. If I really pulled it up right now, it would come off. But yeah, that's it. So now I'll just keep this thing dry for the next month plus. So I was trying to use these. I was trying to use these knee highs at some point when I was starting to graft with. Just take, just using these these are stretchy like rubber bands, and you just can put them over and then put a lot of pressure on with them. But when I tried to use them on the Cereus peruvianus, it's so spiny that like some of the plants out back are still wearing these knee highs because it's like they're never going to come off after I put it on. So that's why the tape works a lot better because it doesn't get stuck as much. Okay, so let me come up closer. I'll just show you guys the seedling stuff. View. I'm gonna do just a down view for a little while, just because this stuff is so small. Okay, so this one a little too close. So these are the Pearskiopsis that I heard you guys were talking about. These are jungle cactus. They're very primitive, so they still have leaves. These guys can handle a lot of water, but they can't really handle cold weather very well. I left mine outside over winter, so you can see it's a little yellow, and the ones with the seedlings on them have dropped their seedlings. Or dropped their leaves, I mean, because they were just stressed over the winter. They're just starting to come back and perk up now that it's warming up. I'll show how to do these. With these ones, you can graft a tiny seedling to them, a micrograft, and grow them. Grow them really quickly. So after a few months, you can get a tiny seedling to grow into an inch across. These things are very fast growers. They can take a lot of water and fertilizer and grow really like crazy. And when that growth is redirected, it will pump up a seedling or another plant. But it's difficult to grow anything with a really big ring on these little plants. It's possible, but it makes it harder. Okay, I have some seedlings. Let me just try to find the best way to get the video for this. Okay. Okay, so these are two pots of seedlings I have. I'm using the takeaway technique, which is just a takeaway container where you sow the seeds and you leave them moist. These seeds are a little bit elongated just because I didn't get enough light, and apparently have been growing over the winter. I left them outside all winter. I planted them last fall. Um, I hope that with they all have some more sunlight now, and I'm hoping they'll round up a little bit. And I'm gonna I put them in a takeaway container that was a little too short for them to grow out, so I'm going to have to figure out how to plant these somewhere better. So these are two kinds of trichocereus seedlings. This one, not too many germinated, but the ones that did, they're monstrose. You can even see they're monstrose just after last fall to now. Not much growth in them yet, but they're still have pups coming out of places they shouldn't. They're really they're from a monstrose parent flower, and yeah, you can already see the traits where they're kind of getting funky. So if I graft these, I can get them to grow out a lot faster than just leaving them on their own. Okay, so let's see. To do this, it's pretty similar. I'm gonna use no pressure today because just do it right on top and then press it down. That's how I got these to work. I don't have as high of a success rate as I'd like. There's more advanced ways to use parafilm, but I need some clothespins and some more stuff that I don't have today with me. So later on, I hope to present the parafilm grafting the seedlings, but now I'm just going to do it just the seedling on top of the Perisciopsis. Okay, so first I pick my seedling that I want. So I just picked one out. It has little monstrous stems on it. Very little. It's a baby. Okay. Camera down a little. This is going to be a little bit harder to see because they're so small. I'll do one of those, and I'll pick a big fat one of these. Okay, there it is, little tiny seedling. This is a Peruvianus seedling. It's Trichocereus peruvianus. So I'm going to try to do this pretty quick so I don't have to recut anything. These little seedlings on the Perisciopsis will grow to 6 inches long and then maybe even longer pretty quickly. The Perisciopsis put out the fastest growth to seedlings, I believe. Okay, so put a glove on. I'm going to cut the seedling in half. I'm going to put the top of the seedling on one side of the Perisciopsis, and the bottom of the seedling on the other side. These Pearskiopsis, they have spines and glochids. Glochids are tiny little barbed spines that just come out and they get stuck in your finger. You need tweezers to get them out. Okay, so yeah, first I'll cut the Pearskiopsis so it has a fresh cut. Yeah, there it is. I'll save this and I can reroute it to make more. Now I'll cut this one here. Okay. So those look like, I'm probably cut this one again just to make sure it's really level. I still don't like the cut. You have to just have a really level, smooth cut. So if I run into spines or leaves, then it causes a problem. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to take the seedling. Here it is. So you can see this little spot back here. It's kind of small. Sorry about that. But I'm going to cut it in half. Really smooth. I'm going to try to do a nice smooth cut where I don't crush it because they're pretty delicate. Okay. Now I take the bottom half and I'll just stick it upside down here. Make sure it's make sure it's pressed in there. There's a little bit of goo that comes out of cactus when you cut them, so I use that goo to kind of glue. It's like aloe vera kind of gel. So yeah, I just press it down. Oops. Make sure it's good. Okay, I put a little pressure and then I just leave it, and yeah, they'll just take as long as I got the pressure on it and I don't move it. I have to leave it be very careful with it for a while, so because they could just fall off right now. And then yeah, they'll just turn into to these guys after some time. Some people take the leaves and they break them in half, and they squeeze the juice onto between the cut to keep them moist. I'm going to try to do this again here. Try not to knock off what I already did. Yeah, this is very, have to be very careful. I think the leaves really help. There's a question, do Pearskiopsis need leaves to be productive stock? And I don't think they need leaves, but the leaves are collecting a lot of energy with the photosynthesis, and that's what's making the plant grow so fast. So I believe the leaves are very helpful. Usually if there's no leaves, the plant's really stressed out too, and probably having a really stressed out plant's not the best for initial grafting. Okay, there's the top. Oops. Okay, here's my seedling. I'm going to cut it in half, put it on top. Now this one I'm just going to put on top because I don't want to knock any of the other ones off. Alright, I'm not going to use the bottom of this one because I'm worried I'm going to knock the other two off. I could use the bottom on this stem, but it's just I'd rather this one take, and I have about 200 of these seedlings in one pot here. So. Okay, yeah, there it is. So that's all you do. And yeah, it'll just start growing out. You have to keep these humid. If you did it in the middle of the summer and it's very dry where you live, then the seeds are used to the humid environment in this takeaway container, and they will, they'll dry out. Yeah, somebody said a scalpel blade, a new blade would work well. Yeah, that's true. I usually use a razor blade. This knife, though, because it's carbon steel, and I just sharpened it, and I believe it's sharp enough that if I ran it over my hair on my arm, and it would cut the hair. That's how you can tell it's really sharp. But yeah, hopefully they take. I'll have to give an update on how they did. So put these away. Okay, it's starting to rain really hard here. I want to show this stuff. The BAP that I mentioned earlier. This is the puffing hormone. this stuff is I mix 3% of this pupping hormone powder with 97% lanolin grease, and when I use it on a slab graft or any place, any kind of aerial on the plant, it will it'll cause a pup to grow out. So it doesn't work every time, but it works if the plant's ready to grow. Um, if you have a slab graft or something that doesn't have a growing tip, it might wait 6 months to have a new pup on its own. And if I use this and it's ready to go, it'll just make a pup within 1 week. It really speeds up the process. Um, this stuff is called kiki paste. It's a it's in the orchid community uses it regularly. It works great though. It's just like very reliably works. You can buy it on Amazon. You can make like a huge batch of it that would last you your whole life for like $20 or $30. Or you can buy it on Amazon for a little container for $10 from the orchid community. Yeah, it's called Kiki paste. Um, Let me show you guys how to use it. Okay, so this is a graft I did a month or two ago, and it's plumped up because of the rain, and it's a slab graft. There was a grower called Bob Smoley in Florida, and so this is a Bob Smoley peruvianus from Bob. Yeah, I guess Bob Smoley's Garden World sold it originally. He's not around anymore, but we like um, to have a plant from his place in our garden. I just had a little pup, and I did 2 slab grafts and a tip graft. The tip graft is growing already. The slabs are just kind of in this pattern, this stalling pattern until they pup out here. There's no growth tip on this plant, but there will be soon. So you have to kind of plan with this stuff. I just use it on a toothpick. Um, I just take the spine area, and I just put a little bit on the aerial, and I stab it a few times, do a little damage, not very much. This stuff is really water resistant, so it won't come off in the rain or anything. Yeah, just do a little damage, but not enough to cause any rot or anything. And this one, it only has 3 aerials, so I'll just do it on all 3. And probably they might all take. They probably takes most of the time. If there is a growing tip already and you do this, it'll just make a little pup, and then it'll just stall out for um, until it's its turn to grow. Because it seems like the growing tips have priority over others if they're like the main tip of the plant. Yeah, so I don't do this any harder than I would break my skin. Just a little scratch. Okay. If I did it down here, it would just pup from the stalk. So this stuff is just anywhere it's on, it's just makes the plant pup. Usually 1 to 3 weeks if it's ready to pup. Sometimes it doesn't. Kiki paste. Yep, so you can see the little globs of paste on there. Yeah, and this is ready to go. Um, yeah, so here's one that's already done, with the Kiki paste, or with the that. So I just did it all over this one because I wanted a bunch of pups, and what I do is I just take, this is that variegated scop. I take it's a slab graft. You can see the edge. I just take a pup off and I regraft it to something else. Then the growth just goes to the next tip in line, and that one grows. It doesn't seem to slow the growth down at all for me to pup it too many times, and then just keep, as long as I keep taking them off. I think if you pupped like the whole plant out and didn't take them off, then they would all kind of stall and suffer. But the way that I'm doing it is for propagation, and so I have a lot of these little pups. I'll take the biggest one off and graft it, and then just keep doing that over and over, and then I end up with 15 little variegated tips, on other plants. So, okay, I guess we're coming coming to the end here of the time. I can answer any questions a little bit better than I have been because I can just answer and not be doing stuff at the same time. So, is there any final questions that anyone has? Let's see. No, just say practice is the best way to learn this if you want to. You just practice a bunch and you'll mess it up. And the grafting tape I use is called Naye, N-A-Y-E. I'll write it out here. No pressure on the seedlings, right? So the pressure on the seedlings is good to do, but I don't have the right. You can do no pressure or you can do pressure. The pressure ones is going to be make it you have a much higher success rate. The success rate for me is probably 40% on my seedlings, 30 or 40% without any pressure, and I think that can go up quite a bit with adding some pressure. So the way that you would add pressure is you use this parafilm, and you will. This stuff is like grafting tape. It's what they use over petri dishes. You wrap it around the stem of the Perisciopsis, and then you cut through the parafilm and the stem, and then you put your seedling on top, and then you put a layer of this parafilm over the top of the seedling, and then you clip it on with a clothespin. I just don't happen to have any clothespins in the house, so the last part of that was hard for me to do. I practiced yesterday, and I didn't have quite all the supplies I needed, so I just went with the no pressure grafts for today. There's the fruit tree grafters they actually use a grafting tape that's the newer version of it is really similar to this parafilm. This stuff is this is what the newer grafting tape looks like, but it doesn't work as well for cactus because it just doesn't put as much pressure on it. It's harder to control. It works for seedlings really well, and the new tape is this parafilm. The older style grafting tape is this. It's more like saran wrap or plastic wrap you get at the store. People put rock dressings on you don't need to put rock dressing on the cactus, but I guess it kills fungus gnats. So if you don't want fungus gnats going from all your, traveling around all your plants, it's something that'll help. Yeah, you can watch this video later on YouTube. So I'll stick around now in the chat. So just anyone can ask me anything there, and I'll end the live stream now. And but I'll be around. So all right, thank you everybody.